Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello, everyone, and welcome to This is Football. Welcome to another stream, ladies and gentlemen. This is another transfer stream. Big up to all the people coming over from Battle of the North. Big up to you guys, my brothers. If you are watching Battle of the North, you get that joke. You get that joke. Big up to everyone who's watching us right now or on the replay. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to yet another stream. Oh my God, I can't even breathe. Whew. Lord have mercy on my soul. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining in. Today, we're going to be talking Disasi. We're going to be talking multiple different things. It's a complete transfer show. So as I was saying, whether you're watching this right now or on the replay, please do make sure you're subscribing to This is Football. Make sure you're slapping the like button. Big up to everyone who's coming in from Battle of the North as well. Can you please spam in the comment section, Dusan Blood Clot Vlahovic? That's all I want you to spam in the comment section, man. I love you all. Anyway, introducing the panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of Chelsea Football Club, we're going to be talking Disasi and Vlahovic. Who else to get than the man himself? Today, styling and profiling like JBL from the WWF 20 years ago with his cowboy hat ready, none other than the man, the myth, the legend, ladies and gentlemen, the icon of Chelsea journalism. And he told you all, sometimes things happen behind closed doors. You don't have to know everything. You know, I'm just saying, you don't have to know everything about Chelsea Football Club. Of course, man like Rob has joined us. How are you doing, my brother? You're on mute.
Yes, I am. Oh, the hat says in honor of the legendary Stuart Broad and his retirement. You know, I felt like I had to doff the cap. I'll do what he does when he's in his work and remove it. But no, again, obviously a legend of his sport and someone who I, again, personally really love as a sports person. So we greatly missed. Had to give a tribute. But yeah, no, pleasure to be back. It's been a while. I want to say probably March, April time. We were discussing Jude Bellingham to Liverpool at the time. Which, you know, that happened. That was I think the last time I was here. But no, nice to be back.
You're always welcome. Unnecessary dig there, but you know, I'm gonna let you have it because I'm in a good mood. Honestly, if you're joining again from Battle of the North, that was an epic stream, man. That was an epic stream. And we kind of got it to Matisse for the whole Vlahovic thing. I'm going to ask Rob about it in a second. And today, as you guys know, Man United lost to Dortmund, in pre-season, and they signed Rasmus Hojlund. So there's kind of a United kind of section to talk about United as well. There's an Arsenal section, but Curran is a little bit late. But joining us, part of the channel's furniture. He told me he's locked and loaded today because he's got so much on his mind. Of course, the man himself, man like Staffy, has joined us on the channel. How are you doing?
I've seen better days. But
damn, is that the energy you're coming with?
Yeah, I just don't have the same energy for it anymore, bro. You know, not the channel, but you know, this fan base just, you know, bro, just has me rattled at this point. I don't get it. It's like you can't say anything negative about this team or not even say anything negative. It's like you can't discuss nothing about this team. The minute you have any questions, it's like, how dare you? Just blindly trust everything. Trust the manager, trust the process, trust all the players. Don't ask questions. Just move like a sheep, you know? And the minute you ask questions, you're a villain. So it's like, all right, if I'm a villain for having an opinion, then let's go. You know, call me a villain then.
I love the energy. I can't lie to you.
It's a different energy today, if I'm being honest.
100%. So, Rob, my brother, as you can see, there's kind of a change to the title because of recent news, which is Vlahovic to Chelsea, of course, and Disasi. Talk to the people kind of about the Chelsea situation currently as things stand.
So
start with.
Sure. So as I tweeted the other day, there's a lot of stuff going on in the background, and like it's kind of my account is on private at the moment after a lot of nonsense in recent weeks, because from a journalist point of view, I've got fed up. Like there's been some stuff I know that's been posted by various places that is just patently wrong. There's been a lot of pushing of agendas in this transfer window. like there have been deals going on in the background that I know have been happening sort of, you know, for days and in some cases weeks. And just because people aren't finding out about them now doesn't mean they haven't been going. This year it's been a lot harder to get information out of the club because they've tried to clamp down on the amount of leaks, which is only a good thing. And there's also been, and you know, I've spoken to a few people about this around the club, and they've all rigidly sort of said this, there has been a determination that if a player is not available, but a player of a similar profile is available, then keeping both irons available, sort of irons in the fire, and until one of them is definitively off the table, then you move quickly for the other player. And I think you've seen that happen in the last couple of days with Leslie Wachukwu. Certainly, it's been the case with Axel Disasi to an extent. With Robert Sanchez as well. And, you know, there's been a lot of things this summer. Chelsea has a very clear prerogative in mind when they came in to this window. It was remove a lot of the players that either didn't want to be there, weren't good enough, or wanted to move on for their own careers' sake. They have done all of that. Integrate the four loanees returning to the club from elsewhere. And in that, I do also... again, that's Malo Gusto, Levi Colwill, Andre Santos, and again, I'm including in that Christopher Nkunku, even though he technically wasn't on loan as per se, he was a new signing, although we all sort of knew this was happening since about last September. And then the final thing was to make a few quality acquisitions into the squad that really added something. And that's been the main thing a lot of people have hammered home with me this year when it comes to Chelsea business. They are not looking to sign players just to be squad players. They're looking to buy players that are either going to come in to be first choice players or have the potential in the future to be first teamers. And they are hedging their bets on some of these deals. Again, there are a number of young attackers that they've signed. Not all of them will make it, but they do feel they can buy them at a price and then, you know, if necessary, move them on for profit in the future. It's a lot easier to do it with them than, say, you know, Hakim Ziyech, for example, who's on significant wages and carries, you know, significant baggage. It's a lot easier to sort of move them on. So I think you're now starting to see it in action a little bit. There is also an element of it that Pochettino has been very, very clear about what he wants in this window. And he sort of made it very, very clear from minute one that his priorities have been a real quality midfielder and a very quality, sort of high quality striker have been his two priorities. The third one is probably another goalkeeper, maybe on a higher level than Kepa Arrizabalaga, but he recognises that that's maybe difficult to do in this window. So you're starting to see now that what Posh really wants, he's starting to get. And I think that's partly why Chelsea have gone back in for the Dusan Vlahovic deal, is because Pochettino has been adamant they need three forwards. He feels that Broja needs time to recover from his ACL. They don't really want to be using Nkunku up front because he feels Nkunku is better suited elsewhere, which again is hard to argue with. And from a sort of Chelsea profile point of view, Broja, Nicholas Jackson, and the potential signing of Dusan Vlahovic gives you three very different profiles as a striker and three very different kinds of players. It also then means you could, if you want to, play two up front at some point, which again is something that it's been stressed to me that sometimes Pochettino liked to do this at Tottenham, where you would have sort of Kane and then Heung-min Son playing just off of him, or alternatively having Lucas Moura coming in and playing in that role as well. And I feel he's trying to construct a sort of striking line similar to that, and maybe you're sort of looking at sort of, again, he's not the sort of similar side of player, but in terms of the very strong runner in sort of Heung-min Son, you're sort of seeing similar elements like Broja, the very quick, sort of nimble, agile player in Nicholas Jackson, like Lucas Moura, and the more target man style forward in Dusan Vlahovic.
So on the Vlahovic signing, just before we kind of go to Staffy as well on Vlahovic, what's your kind of reaction on him? Because I can't lie, the reaction I got like from 20 minutes ago was quite negative from Matisse. He was actually about to cry on because we signed Vlahovic, because you know, Chelsea signed Vlahovic. Well, what were you saying on the whole Vlahovic situation?
My opinion on Vlahovic is very much there's two kinds of Dusan Vlahovic you can get. You can either get the snarling demon that there was at Fiorentina, who is the sort of centre forward that if you bring him in, he will terrorise any defence in the world. He's a very, very good player. Or you can get the timid, weak Dusan Vlahovic you've seen at Juventus over the last year or so. Now, I personally, I don't think it's worth the risk. However, I think Chelsea are looking at it from an upsides point of view. If they can get Vlahovic in for A, getting Lukaku off the books, B, getting Lukaku's wages off the books, and C, a fairly nominal fee that will also, you know, not really impact them on book value wise, you're potentially getting a forward that could be worth, 80 or 90 million if he refines his form. Now, that is sort of the big gambit, is whether he will refine that form. But I think also what you have to maybe look at is the fact that Nicholas Jackson has obviously come in and done very, very well in pre-season, but there will be games where potentially you want to play him in a wide attacking role. He was originally a wide attacker sort of at Villarreal, and that is sort of his primary position rather than just pure centre forward. He can play on both the right and the left. You also want to have opportunities to play him up front against someone. And I think Vlahovic, to me, is more the sort of player that you could use against a lower block. And sort of, if you've got a couple of sort of big, sort of powerful centre-backs, you can put Vlahovic up against them. Now, Jackson impressed me in pre-season doing this. And I do think, that element of Jackson's game has been underrated. But in Vlahovic's case, I think they're looking at it as someone who you really can sort of, you can potentially get a very, very good deal if he finds his form again. And that's the big question.
Staffy, where do you sit on this whole kind of Chelsea situation from the outside looking in?
I don't know. The news is still fresh, so I really haven't made my mind on this yet. And I still don't know a lot of details about it. But from what I know, that Vlahovic is coming in and Lukaku's going out, correct?
Yeah, at this moment in time, that's what Chelsea want. Ideally, you just to clarify a bit on the deal for people. Ideally, what Juventus would like is cash plus Lukaku for Vlahovic. Chelsea, I think, will maybe be okay at putting a little bit of cash up, but what they will probably do is they will look at what Vlahovic's book value is. They will look at what Lukaku's book value is. They will subtract Lukaku from Vlahovic and will offer that cash up in return, and will say that is what we think he is worth.
Okay. I think the main benefit, the only reason I'm asking that, and thank you for providing that detail, is because I think the main goal from all this is to get rid of Lukaku. Getting rid of Lukaku in general is a massive win for Chelsea, because there's too much toxicity around him. There's too much loss in value around him. Just having him off the books in general is already a win. Now, when it comes to bringing in Vlahovic, now I understand people have reservations on his season last season because he hasn't really hit the ground running in Juventus. But he did have a good year with Fiorentina before it. So it kind of depends on what they're getting. Are they getting the old one or the new one? Now, we all know Juventus they just didn't have a great year last year anyways. In general, the whole club was just a mess between the allegations and the point deductions, a lot of players getting injured and stuff. So they didn't ideally have a good year. So maybe you can sit there and argue that the surroundings, let's just say, for Vlahovic last season wasn't the best for him to kind of excel in. So for me, you can look at it in multiple ways. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to the fee. I feel like if Chelsea don't pay too much cash next to Lukaku and they get Vlahovic in, they'll feel better about it. Because to a degree, people sit there and they worry too much about how rivals critique their own transfers. So if you feel like in some way you're getting a bargain, they'll be okay with it. If they feel like they're getting their pants pulled down, they'll feel less excited about it. But you shouldn't really look at it that way. Like if you're a Chelsea fan, as I said, the main thing was to always get Lukaku out. I think Vlahovic could do something under Pochettino, depending on the way he uses him. I haven't watched a lot of Chelsea, but I've watched a couple preseason games, and I see a lot of energy in that team. I see potentially this season they're gonna have a lot of chance creators, and as you mentioned, he would kind of thrive in against a low block team. And I feel like Chelsea, with the way they're playing and the way they're gonna play under Poch, they're gonna put a lot of teams in low blocks. And maybe he just like finds form, and with sometimes you need a new move to like rejuvenate yourself. So
do you think Vlahovic fits Chelsea though?
I think with the players that I have around him, yeah, I do think he would be a good fit.
I think it's hard at the moment to say definitively one way or the other. But what I will say is, like in pre-season, you've seen, and this is when we have the sort of Nicholas Jackson as that sort of lone forward, you've had people playing into him, and especially if you can get someone like Vlahovic and you can get maybe Nkunku playing off of him, and the wingers sort of getting forward, all the sort of attacking midfielders getting forward. The biggest thing I've noticed from Chelsea in pre-season that's been different has been the willingness of players to get into and around the box. And especially when there have been sort of crosses coming in, there have been 3-4 players in and around the box, whereas previously it's only been one. And if you're only picking out one striker in there, it's very, very difficult for that striker to succeed unless you're someone like an Erling Haaland, for example, that just has that inert, absolute ridiculous ability just to sniff out any sort of half chance. And I'm not saying I don't think Vlahovic is an Erling Haaland. Like, I want to make that very, very clear he's not. But I do think Vlahovic is the sort of player that if you have, him in the box, because of the size of him and also the sort of, the fact that he does pose a threat, he's a big guy, he's very physical, that then means you've got a problem for defenders, and maybe you then have, say Nkunku arriving on sort of inside the box and around the box to cause havoc. You've got whoever the left sort of side attacker is or the right side attacker is coming in and sort of doing that as well. And maybe one of the deeper, the deeper midfielder as well, if they're sort of committing one of them all the way forward. And that is what, like, one thing that's been really evident in pre-season, especially with, say, Conor Gallagher, when he's been playing in that sort of deep pivot role, has been that final sort of third man run into the edge of the box and around the edge of the box, either to keep possession or alternatively to take sort of shots on directly. And I also think the other thing with Vlahovic is that he is very, very good in the air. He sort of thrives in sort of aerial sort of situations. In Reece James, Chelsea have one of the best crossers in the league. And, in the sort of people like Madueke, Mudryk, Angelo has shown it in pre-season, and Nkunku, they've got the sort of players that can create those good chances in and around the 6-yard box, which I think is maybe what he's lacked at sort of Juventus this year. And I think it was a really good point made about the fact that some players just need a change of scenery. Like, I mean, you look at Coutinho is a great example, I think. Looked phenomenal at Liverpool, but then went to Barcelona and never really fitted in. And since then hasn't really, fit in anywhere besides a brief spell at Aston Villa. Sadio Mane looked phenomenal at Liverpool, but doesn't really fit in at Bayern Munich. There's sort of other, or you can even, dial it back. Jadon Sancho looked phenomenal at Dortmund, but doesn't really fit in the system at the moment at Manchester United. I know he's been playing a bit more as sort of a false nine, but you have these players and sometimes moves just don't work out. And I think we also, as fans, we do forget that footballers are human. Like, they have other stuff going on in their lives and there's other things sort of involved in it. And you have to sort of factor that in, that sometimes players, moves go wrong, and it isn't necessarily for any reason, but you just sort of have to accept it and sort of grind through it.
Mm-hmm. Just before we carry on, big up to everyone who's watching us. There's 250 people watching us. We're only 10 minutes into the video. Make sure you're all slapping the like button. Make sure you're all subscribing. Guys, minimum 100 likes. You guys ain't new here. Do slap that like button. Do subscribe to the channel. I want to say as well, special shout out to everyone who has supported the channel so much in the month of July. Big up to everyone who has shared the videos. Big up to everyone who have liked, everyone who has subscribed, everyone who sent in super chats. All the people have shown us all the love and support. Continue to support us by hitting that like button, by subscribing. We want to get to 100 likes minimum. That's our next target. So please do like the video, do subscribe. And kind of the next guy I want to speak on is a guy that I think was announced yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, for Liverpool, for Chelsea, sorry. Disasi. He's officially going to be a Chelsea player. What do you think of that transfer, Rob?
I firstly want to make it clear that at this moment in time, I don't think the deal's fully done. I believe a fee has been agreed, and I think he's been given permission to undergo a medical. But just to temper expectations, until a medical is completed, until the contract is signed, no deal is done, and until it's registered in the transfer matching system. But I really like Axel Disasi. I've watched a bit of him at Monaco. I think he's a very, very good modern defender. He adds leadership to that defence. He has international experience. He sort of came into Monaco, and initially when he arrived, he was actually a bit of sort of Jonah. He was a bit of a joke. Monaco were in poor form. He was really struggling, and he actually got usurped by Benoit Badiashile, ironically. But he sort of came roaring back and made that right centre back position his own. Really dominated it. After Badiashile left in January, he really stepped up to another level. He can play right centre back. He can play at right back. If you really need to, he can cover in the defensive midfield role. There's a lot to like about Axel Disasi, and stats-wise, he's got some incredible sort of stats. I think 25 is a good age to sign a player at. I think it's good long-term thinking from Chelsea, because obviously we know Thiago Silva is probably not going to be, renewing with the club next summer, and this now takes the pressure off needing to, buy a replacement immediately. They also, you cover for the fact Wesley Fofana is out for the season, and I think that's a great shame, because I was really looking forward to seeing him.
Because that's been a question among Chelsea fans
in this window.
Yeah.
No, I feel off the pitch, he's got an important role to like play with all the young players at the club. Like I feel people don't necessarily see all of the leadership of Thiago, like as well as the leadership on the pitch, the leadership off the pitch. The fact that consistently everyone says he is the best trainer, he's the one going in and doing, the extra sprints, he's the one doing the extra drills, he's the one sort of marshalling everything. I think, the way Pochettino sort of speaks about him, the way the young players speak about him, sort of, André Santos, for example, who sort of, is Brazilian himself, he sort of talks about him as an idol. It is someone I think who has as much of an impact off the pitch as on the pitch. And I think increasingly you might see Thiago Silva sort of phased out this season, maybe even reserved for sort of big matches or sort of, the important games. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because I feel there are certain games where his nous and expertise could be a massive thing. But there are other matches where maybe I think Thiago Silva's lack of pace could be exposed against certain teams and against certain ways they play. And I think, Chelsea are proactively planning for the future. The player I do feel a bit sorry for in this equation is Trevor Chalobah, who I think probably ends up being moved on, and I think he's kind of ends up being a little bit of a victim of circumstance in this sort of sense, because Chelsea have Alfie Gilchrist and Bashir Humphreys, who are two other phenomenally highly rated centre backs. They've now agreed the new 6-year deal with Levi Colwill, so I'm sorry to Sam, he will not be joining Liverpool. They've got Badia Chile and Fofana as well. All of them are under, I think, Disasi is the oldest, I think, at 25. You're looking at a very young sort of centre-back unit and the potential sort of be set for the next decade. And I think that's something that's so important, because the most dominant sides in the Premier League, the most historically dominant sides, are the ones that have very settled defensive pairings and partnerships. And the biggest issue last year for Chelsea was the inability to sort of settle a partnership. And I think Disasi just adds that little bit, he's just that little bit better than Trevor Chalobah, I think. And that's not a slight on Chalobah. I think Chalobah will end up being a very, very good player, and I think he's a good squad player. But I think at his stage of his career, he deserves more than just being, fourth choice. If he wants to go out and, make a career elsewhere, be first choice, get himself into the England squad, play at the Euros, he needs to make the choice that's right for his career.
I hear you. Before I introduce our next panelist, so he can have his say on Chelsea as well, Arsenal fan, about to join us. This guy, I don't want to introduce him as a tactical today, because I don't want to get on his nerves. He just woke up from a nap as well. That's why he's 20 minutes late, but we're going to forgive him, because he's usually even earlier than me on the stream.
Kind of baby shit is that?
What's up?
I said, what kind of baby shit is that? He woke up from a nap, and he's
you're already starting.
And he's cranky, so we're worried about him.
Joining us on the channel, of course, is the man always repping Arsenal Football Club. Knows ball, though, so he's going to have a kind of good overview of the Chelsea and United situation currently, because he doesn't do agendas. Of course, Twitter tactical himself, man like Karan has joined us on the channel. How are you doing, Karan?
Not good. This doesn't happen to me. I was it is baby shit. I fell asleep. I was on the couch, fell asleep, woke up, and I was like, shit. I looked at the time. It was 10 or I think it's 15 to 9. You could see probably my eyes are still red. So literally just woke up. But yeah, what's Vlahovic to Chelsea? Is that a thing now?
Yeah, you took a long nap.
Vlahovic to Disasi. That's the while you were asleep, Vlahovic to Chelsea became a thing. No exaggeration.
I think it's
I said
important
this
to
was
know.
6 months.
He was in a coma. He was in a coma.
Yes.
Lovely. I that was a move that I always thought would happen, to be honest.
I think it's important to note at this moment in time, like the clubs are still in negotiations. There is a difference between sort of valuation at the moment that needs to be worked out, because Juventus won.
Involved.
Yes, he is.
This is the move I thought would happen 6 months ago. This is so cool. Okay,
well, you slept for 6 months. There you go. Good
yeah,
morning.
so
I'm going to say it's been a bit unspoken.
That's not a nap. That's hibernation. If it's for 6 months, that's
no. But that's I'm no. The thing is, right? It did seem like a deal that seemed very plausible for a while, because of Chelsea have so many issues to address, and Poch, what he likes in a 9. You have Vlahovic, who's such a great channel runner, can hold the ball up well, has a lot of things that a young Harry Kane would be able to do. So, and obviously Poch has worked with young Harry Kane, so Yeah, no, that's a very Poch move for them. I think I like Jackson a lot. I've seen nothing before this preseason, but from the preseason stuff, he looks quite nice. But for them, I think that's a really good move because it shows that they're backing Poch, because that's the kind of striker he'd want. Yeah, and obviously
He very
Lukaku
much, he very much was Pochettino's first choice in this window. The board were pushing for Lautaro Martinez and other names. Like, he's been very, very clear he wants Dusan Vlahovic.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised at all. But yeah,
If you came in from Battle of the North, you
Yeah.
know exactly why Twinny just said black again. You get me, black. Honestly, that last 15 minutes of Battle of the North, it was so funny, man. Matisse's head was on Mars because Rob actually took the Vlahovic stuff kind of positively. Matisse has lost his mind. Matisse is like, no, I don't want Vlahovic. He just threw his toys out the pram. Honestly, that whole segment was so hilarious. Me and Flawless, but we kind of dunked on
I mean, having lived through an era where I've watched, Falcao, Higuain, Morata, Lukaku once, Lukaku again. Like, having lived through that era of watching those strikers at Chelsea, like, I work on the basis that can it get any worse? And I've arrived at the conclusion, no, it can only just be equally as bad. Like, it says something that, I was thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking, you know what, if I had a choice of one of those again, it would be Higuain, because although Higuain never looked fit for us for 6 months, at least he scored a couple of bangers. Like, Falcao was probably the most disappointing signing we made in the last decade, because I wanted Falcao of like 2012, and he was nothing like it. And like all my agenda that I was planning to run, with Falcao. Yeah, exactly. I love Radamel Falcao. I think he's one of the best strikers of the last decade, one of the most underrated players of the last decade. And the injuries robbed people of seeing him at the peak of his powers. The fact that I watched him in that 12-13 Super Cup where he just ripped Chelsea to bits and just ripped them to bits all game, like, that is probably the most complete performance I've seen from a centre forward against against my club. Probably
you guys are starving when it comes to strikers.
I would have thought another striker that both of you guys signed would be the worst one. Surely it's Romelu. That's got to be, especially.
You know what's funny, Curran? Now that you said that, do you remember the debates between Morata, Lukaku, and Lacazette?
Lacazette, yeah.
Everyone lost that. Everyone lost. Except for Chelsea, they lost twice.
Yes, I will say that even still with all of this, Lukaku did still manage to end up with more European trophies than Thierry Henry managed in England. But
all right.
Anyway, besides that,
if we're doing banter, at least we're playing in Europe this season. So
I look forward to you going out. I look forward to you going out against Bayern Munich again. I look forward to a little 10-2. But anyway,
you mean the Bayern Munich? We literally
you know what's going on over
market
here
all summer.
You know what's mad?
So you know what's going on over here?
I'm gonna be honest. This is my fault. I'm a whole.
I just woke up. Why am I getting trashed at? What was going on?
I'm tell you why. Rob's villain arc is my fault because Rob was a speaker on Football Wars for a year.
Yeah, Hassan corrupted me.
Yeah, he had.
Hassan corrupted me. I used to be so measured and so not interested in it, and then Hassan brought me into Football Wars, and I had to listen to people scream "Let me land" as they said the most ridiculous things, and it's just basically.
I've been in like 5 of those.
But the way they just vented each other, Hassan. The way they just vented.
This isn't Rob's reality.
I know. The way they just bantered each other right now. This is educated people banter. Like the way they even banter, it's just so like pure and like respectful. It's not like us on the
mellow, yeah.
On the hour, we just like curse out each other.
Your moms or anything like that.
They're very calm. Oh, Romelu won European trophies. Well, at least we're in Europe. And they're about to sip on their cup of tea and nothing happened.
I will say, I am genuinely very curious to see this year with Arsenal how they do in Europe, because I think they could actually. It could turn out to be very good for them, because I think they're going to be more equipped to deal with Europe this year than they will be dealing with a league campaign. But that's another sort of, that's another kettle of fish.
And speaking of Arsenal, we might as well segue to the kind of the Arsenal segment here. Unless current, I don't know if I just ask you about Disasi. Can I get your opinion on that before we move on to Arsenal?
Brother, that guy is very slow. That's the main thing with me. He's like, for the amount of money they've paid. I mean, there's this other. This is my problem with Disasi. If you've got Tadibo available, you've got Tapsoba available, you've got someone like Diamonde available. Disasi isn't the one.
You
I'd be
rate
chasing.
Diamonde?
Diamonde?
Yeah, you
Well,
rate him.
he's next up. I'm telling you right now, he's someone that's going to be next up. If you watched how he played against us, how he played against Spurs in the Champions League,
Fairs.
kept tracked on Kane for most of both those games. So, yeah, I've always thought that. But the thing is, when you talk about that sporting side, it's Amorim. It's like Amorim is very. It's almost like a De Zerbi type thing, where his system and the way he manages his sides. Is it something that can overcome the player? Can they get out of it and still come well? I think that's why a lot of people are going for a Pedro Calves or an Edwards or someone like this. I think Ugarte is the only one that's really
Michael
got out
Edwards?
of that. No, the Spurs dude. The Spurs dude. So yeah. So
yeah, that's
it'll be
Michael
interesting.
Edwards, no?
Is it Michael Edwards or was it Matthew? I'm not sure. Brother, I just woke up.
Oh,
I don't really.
no.
Give me a break. I have no idea what's going on right now.
It's Marcus Edwards.
Marcus Edwards. That's the one. Yeah.
The Spurs player.
Yeah, the ex-Spurs academy player that went to Sporting.
To Sporting, isn't his name?
Marcus Edwards. Marcus Edwards.
Oh my god, I've been saying it wrong my whole life. That's cute. So it's Marcus, not Michael. Okay,
but anyway, the main thing about Disasi is I worry about the speed and I worry about he's just he feels a bit clunky to me. Like that's something that he's gonna have to work on. I think he's very good in terms of his tackling technique and the way he runs with the ball. But there's going to be times where you're looking at having him at, with a Colwill or a Badiashile or something like this, and they're going to have to cover for him because of the recovery pace, the way they structure that defensive line. So that's the main thing for me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the main. Yeah.
Okay, so look, I think half an hour to the show. Enough about Chelsea now. Let's move on to their London rivals, Arsenal, before we hop on to Man United. Big up everyone who's watching us. 300 people are in the building. Do make sure you're slapping the like button. Do make sure you're subscribing to the channel if you're ready to do so. Every single person watching us right now, this very second, please do like the video. Please do subscribe. Big up to 20 for the super chat. You get me, blood. Big up to you guys, man. Like the video, subscribe right now. We're approaching 100 likes. We're like 3 likes away. So like this video. And listen, speaking of Arsenal, latest news on Arsenal Football Club. David Raya is kind of the latest thing. And I've never seen Curran message me so quickly after a transfer rumor ever my whole life.
It was pissing me off. It was genuinely pissing me off.
The transfer rumor dropped, and no exaggeration, no word of exaggeration whatsoever. Like, genuinely speaking, this guy messaged me. This guy messages me within like 30 seconds of the transfer thing dropping. And he's like, get me on when the David Raya video is on. I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's just do it tomorrow. So talk to the people about Raya. Karan, what were you saying about him?
I mean, it's funny. We were talking about him on the stream, weren't we? We were talking about the top 10 goalkeepers with all that stuff. Do you remember? We were talking to Allison at the top, and like that 3 to 10 window with the keepers. And if people tune into that show, they'll remember. But look, for me, I think this is very indicative for what we've done with our window this far. It's very a very how we've moved this window. You look at Timber, you look at the way we've structured with him. Everyone thought that he's going to be obviously starting all the games. It's quite evident that this is going to be a squad rotation option. I think I've talked to you before about this concept about 20 to 25 games for all players, so we're not going into running out of steam at the end of the season. And I think if you look at the way it's been reacted to, as opposed to the way the movements we've made in the past 4 or 5 months have actually played out, people seem to think that he's automatically starting because we're paying money for him. Look, it seems that Matt Turner looks like he wants to play more games because of the World Cup coming. I don't blame him. He's USA's number 1, and if we get a good fee for him,
who's gonna buy him though?
Nottingham Forest it was what Ornstein reported. I think was
It's
15 to 20
worth
million.
noting Forest are now looking at the MLS keeper because of Turner's wage demands and Arsenal's
Yeah.
demands for the fee.
Yeah, this is the thing. So we have to, if he wants to get minutes, he's going to have to either find a new club, or we're going to have to keep him, and we're just going to abandon this thing because it's his request to play minutes, and we saw that Raya was available. We've been interested in Raya since 2020, so this isn't a new interest.
So what's been
Before
pissing you off about the Raya conversations then?
What's pissing me off is that everyone assumes that it's Arsenal fans need to eat their words because this guy is obviously going to be the yes, I know, I'm saying to you, the Holigo Ramsdale or whatever the thing is it's the Ramsdale or whatever you want to say. It's just like it's his fault. It's obviously going to replace him, and I'm just thinking, we're losing a number 2 keeper, we're bringing in another keeper, we've just done the contract for our number 1 keeper. It's a case of there's no lose situation here. If Raya comes in and he performs better than Ramsdale, he becomes our number 1. Ramsdale will have to fight for his place back, and that's how it'll go. If Ramsdale outperforms Raya, then he stays our number 1. And if both of them, if, like, for example, with Ortega at City as well, is he going to just be playing minutes in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, or is it going to be a case where there's real competition? Because Ortega, let's be real, Ortega starts for a lot of Premier League clubs. I would say that he showed that he's actually very, very competent. So my thing is I think that a lot of it's going on about how it's on everything's Ramsdale's fault, when I think the whole point of this signing is to keep the same level of play, the same principles of play for 60 games next season. That's the whole point of this, and that's what we did with Timber as well. The whole point of these signings is whoever starts, but whatever happens, we will be there for 60 games with the
But
same
would you say it's fair
quality
for
of
us to
player.
say that Raya could start? It's a
Of
fair
course,
argument.
look, but the thing is, to me,
It's
it
not.
doesn't
No,
matter.
my thing is, it's not impossible to displace Ramsdale. It's not like
No,
impossible.
of course not, of course not. And that's why I led with. I said, look, if Raya outperforms Ramsdale, he'll start. But I just think that there's a whole conversation about starters when people are missing the bigger picture, and that's why I was annoyed. The reason why it's annoying to see, because people are always wondering, well, who's getting the minutes, who's getting the minutes, without realizing whoever's not getting the minutes will get the minutes that the other person doesn't play. And that's the point, because we have 60 games next season. We have Champions League next season. We're going to have games. Like we were playing Carl Hein in the Carabao Cup. We were playing Ramsdale in the Europa League. Like, why are we playing Ramsdale in the Europa League? Surely that should be Turner's position, right? So obviously there's a need for him to actually get a keeper in that will keep the same positional sense and then play the position the same way that we'd want Ramsdale to play. And they do have different strengths as well. Like, for example, Raya's better at long kicking. Ramsdale's better at clip passes out wide and a bit more. He's a bit more adventurous with his thing, and he's a bit of a better shot stopper. So I just think that the whole point for me of this signing, and the point of with Havertz as well, and with Timber, I think Rice is the only one that this doesn't really apply to, because obviously Rice is a ceiling raiser, not really a floor raiser. The whole point is for 60 games next season, we have players in pretty much every position that for 60 games, we're not looking to at a level drop to when you get into your second starter, and that's what you need in this league, and you need this in Europe as well. So that was my main thing. I just think that everyone's missing the point of instead of going on about Ramsdale, thinking about what happens whoever starts when they aren't playing. Because to me, that's the main point. That's what we've missed for the past 5, 6, 7, however many years, is that after the first 11, what happens? If someone goes down or something happens, what happens to that position? Whether it be goalkeeper, right back, DM, whatever. And that's what we have now. I mean, I made a tweet, and literally, I didn't even have Balogun or Jorginho on it, because there's only you can only do 2 players per position, and literally the second 11, I am pretty sure would finish top 4, maybe top 6 in the league with Raya in it. And I think that's what you need if you got. How many times have we said that about City? They have 2 11s that can finish top 4, and that's what you need in this league. So I'm a bit like on the board about the price. If we can get it to where we want to get it, for maybe 25, 30 million, something like this, then great. And obviously we have to get Tan to go as well. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot going on.
I'm not depressed. I'm actually working.
Can you confirm to Murad you're not depressed, stuff, because he's kind of worried about it.
No, this is the earliest I've actually done a show on this channel. If you think of it, you've never had me earlier than, I would say, 5 o'clock for me, which is 10 p.m. for you, or UK time. So
it's the afternoon struggle.
Yeah, I mean,
the mid-afternoon slump.
Today as well. I mean, today's the 31st, so it's the last day of the month for us. So I have some extra work. But listen, if I can find time to still do a show and work, so then people can at least hit the like buttons for us, you know. But I promise I'm not depressed. I am a little bit of annoyed with my team, but I would call it.
When we get to the United section, you're gonna actually hear his opinion as well. That's why I kept
just hearing Curran. Yeah, for now I'm just hearing Curran. I was waiting for him to get to the part to explain which one is better than Onana. Is it Raya or is it Ramsdale? Because they tend to always switch their players.
Both are better than Onana. I'll tell you that right now.
I mean, if that's what you think,
that's just my opinion, brother.
Last year it was Partey who's better than Casemiro, but then the minute you signed Rice, the minute you signed Rice, he became better than Casemiro and Partey. Correct. I mean, and now when Raya comes in,
my brother, Rice has always been my guy. Has been for 2 years.
On Raya, can I just say one thing? I don't think he's going to agree to come to Arsenal if he thinks that he's going to be in a battle for that number 1 jersey. And the reason being, the reason being why I think he wants assurance is to get a chance to dominate it. He's currently at the moment on the cusp with the Spain jersey. That Spain jersey is up for grabs. With, I mean, Kepa being Kepa, Robert Sanchez being, having had one brilliant year following up an awful year.
And then going to Chelsea.
Yeah, well, it'll be really interesting. This is why Robert Sanchez will be really fascinating to see if how much can a goalkeeper coach actually affect a goalkeeper. The Arsenal Rare thing, it kind of reminds me a bit of that year Chelsea had Cech and Courtois. And don't get me wrong, for that year it was phenomenal. Like, I have never gone into games that confident and that happy and that assured that, okay, Cech gets a knock in the warm-up, we can put Courtois in goal. Courtois, ill, we can put Cech in goal. But the problem is it's not a long-term plan. And I have a feeling, and I sort of said this to someone, and they, I was vehemently pushed off of it, but I have a feeling that despite Ramsdale signing that new contract, I think this is evidence that Arteta's saying, I feel we can upgrade here. And the reason I'm saying this is because I think there were moments towards the end of last season, and, rightly or wrongly, that Ramsdale, if he'd have been a higher caliber of keeper...
The Southampton game.
Yeah, well, not only the Southampton game, but there are a few matches as well. I can think of, the Brighton match, I think it was that, where he was responsible for one of the goals. The other games, I think was it the West Ham match, possibly, where he looked unsteady all game and sort of,
No, the West Ham game, we conceded a penalty, and then that was one of them, and then the second one was a defensive error leading to a goal.
Okay.
I don't think that was a massive
There's one of them I remember. I think it was a corner. It may have been in the Europa League, so it may have been Matt Turner. But the one that I remember,
Europa League. I think if you looked at Ramsdale's performance, he didn't do very well. The Sporting game, he got caught off the middle of his.
Maybe it is the Sporting game I'm thinking of then. Yeah. And I kind of. Again, I wonder if Arteta, to an extent with this, he's kind of making a bit of a rod for his own back, because, and I know Arsenal fans hate the reminder of it, but they obviously sold in Martinez, who's turned out to be a very, very good goalkeeper. And I think it's fair to say, he's a very, very good goalkeeper. At the same time, Arteta made it clear that was his decision, and, this was him, my way or the highway, etc. They brought in Ramsdale, who at the time was, in a similar way to how Chelsea fans are reacting to Robert Sanchez, actually, derided by a lot of people, and he turned out to be, I think, a good signing. But I feel that he's looking at this and he's looking at Raya and feeling he's an upgrade on him. And you can't really put the same argument at the Cech and Courtois thing that, it's a long-term plan for the future, because I think I'm right in saying Raya's 2 years older than Ramsdale.
Raya's 27, yeah.
Yeah, Raya's 27, I think Ramsdale's 25.
2 years older. I swear he's even older than that. Isn't he 4 years older than Ramsdale?
Ramsdale,
Oh,
I'm
he's
pretty
older. I
sure
thought
is
he was
23 or 24. So yeah, maybe a bit
I
older.
believe I think he's turned 25.
Yeah. Yeah,
Let's
but
check
but,
the
but
infamous
just quickly.
Google, because Raya's 27.
Raya's
How old
27.
is
I'm not.
Ramsdale?
If Ramsdale's, I think Ramsdale's 24 or 25. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Ramsdale's 25, so it is 2 years.
25,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I thought the
It's-
difference is even bigger. I thought
Yeah,
Raya's like
this was the thing I was looking at, because having before they came to the Premier League, having followed Brentford and stuff, and having had a keen eye on them due to the fact I think they're a very interesting study for a football club. I remember Raya being signed as a very young player at from Blackburn, and at the time when Brentford brought him in, he made a lot of mistakes early on, but he quickly. The main thing I remember with Raya that was so phenomenal and impressive was his distribution in the Championship. Like, he used to be very, very good at that, and he then also became, that very dominant force. And I think Arsenal are potentially looking at this, and potentially this is where I think, Arsenal might run aground in the future, is that they're going to have a lot of players that are going to have expectations to play, and a lot of young players that have expectations to play.
Yeah.
And if they're not playing, Ramsdale's position in the England squad is by no means secure. I think it's fair to say that he's played well when he's played for England, but I think in the England squad with the goalkeeping jersey, besides Jordan Pickford, pretty much every other name is up for grabs, I think. I think it's hard to say there's a definitive player that you put in as the number 2. And I think if Ramsdale stops playing, that then puts pressure on, his international position. If Raya's not playing, it puts pressure on his one. It'll be fascinating to see how you manage it, because goalkeeper rotation rarely works out.
The thing I would push back on, and I agree, first of all, literally nothing you said was wrong in terms of goalkeeper rotation, check and Courtois, etc. I point to basically who the goalkeeping coach is Inaki Kanya, who was the Brentford keeping coach, who bought Raya, and obviously we wanted Raya for years now, so I wouldn't be surprised if he starts. And the thing is, I've always said that if you aren't good enough to start, you're going to have to be strong enough mentally to get your place back. It's that simple. Otherwise, you shouldn't be in the squad. Yeah, of course you
can. Can I say something? Because this reminds me of the 1 or 2 seasons.
Can you just confirm to Murad, is it not Hojlund? That's the reason why you're annoyed?
No, because I want Hojlund. So there's nothing to annoy me about.
Go on, Raya.
It's still Mount, probably.
No. Can we stop speculating about me being depressed? This reminds me of the 2 seasons, 1 or 2 seasons, where we had De Gea and Henderson, starting and being back up to each other. And I'll tell you something, compared to the Courtois and Czech situation, that one was a little bit different, because that one was more of a switch of the guard, like the old goalkeeper who's been good is about to, pass it on to his apprentice, basically. And the De Gea and Henderson situation, I'll tell you, it wasn't that good, because there was instances where people always sat there and they're like, at what point does Henderson take over? And Henderson took over for a while, but when De Gea left, because his missus was giving birth, and when he came back, he never reclaimed his spot again.
Mm-hmm.
And people were questioning, oh, why is Henderson now playing over De Gea? And then Henderson got COVID, and De Gea started playing, and then Henderson never got his spot back. And it created this drama for a couple years. And I'll tell you something, if you have 2 good goalkeepers and they're about the same age, the minute one goalkeeper makes a mistake, the cameras already go to the goalkeeper who's on the bench. And they're like, oh, should he be?
We had that with Leno. We had it with Leno as well.
And you guys kind of seen it, yeah, basically with Leno.
No, but I like what Karan said,
that
he doesn't, Staffy, the good thing about Karan is he doesn't think it's crazy that Raya could replace Ramsdale. That's my thing. It's a possibility.
I like that he said that, but the thing is, you don't really, the one position that you really don't want much competition for is the goalkeeping position. No. You want your number 1 goalkeeper to be known. You want a decent backup. Our best backup, as an example, was Romero. We had Romero for about 4 or 5 years, and Romero was excellent for us. But no matter how many times he came in the Europa League games or Cup games and got clean sheets or whatever, we always knew that De Gea is playing.
Was the number 1, yeah.
And it was very simple. Those were simple days. I miss those days. Those were the days where De Gea was actually at his best. And Romero, no matter what he did, no one just sat there and asked questions if he's going to come in. Because it gives the goalkeeper assurances. And the backup knows that he's good enough to be in the team, but he's not displacing the number 1 goalkeeper. Ramsdale just getting a new contract based on what you guys said. And now
he just did. He's already got a new contract.
That's what I'm saying. He just got a new contract, and then bringing in a no goalkeeper, I think it kind of creates a little bit of toxicity, or I wouldn't say toxicity, but like, you know,
Uncertainty.
it makes it a little bit awkward. Yeah, like it's definitely
I
uncertain where
understand.
questions are going to be raised. You know
Yeah,
what
of
I'm
course.
saying?
And the thing is, questions can be raised, and that's fine. I'm sitting here and saying I don't know what will happen either. But my thing is when was Ramsdale for us? Any Arsenal fans in the comments, they'll know when Ramsdale was best for us when he first came in. That first 6 months when he came in, he was fantastic, and he was uncertain of his position. I think he was the one trying to establish himself. We lost those 3 games. He came in and was trying to prove himself to the fans, and he had those spectacular performances for months. And he's someone you can see by by the way he talks, the way he interviews people. He needs the pressure. He needs someone, at his back and constantly trying to push him. And I think if you look at how this happens, look, it could make or break Aaron Ramsdale. It could make him and just spur him on to new things, or it could break him and he'll end up heading to the bench and eventually leaving. I've always had a lot of faith in Aaron Ramsdale. When he first came, I was one of the only ones on Twitter who actually thought, why are we booing this guy? He's clearly someone that will come good for us. I just thought that there was too much there to just rubbish it for 25 million, just to say he's just going to be crap. But my thing is if you look at how his mental profile is, he needs that. He needs something. He needs that competition. He needs that something going on with him. And I think
it could also take Ramsdale to the next level. That's
it could take Ramsdale to the next level. And the thing is, for me, is if you're recruiting someone to come in and they're in their prime age, 27, he's just about to enter his prime of his goalkeeping age. His mentality should be, I'm coming for that number one. Same thing that Ramsdale said when Leno came here.
And I think
I'm coming for the number one. And
I think
if they're pushing each other and one wins that battle, then fair. It could also go the other way. I still think, as with Havertz, there's a lot of gambles we've taken this year, but they're smart gambles. We're not saying that we're just taking a chance on players for just taking a chance sake. There's clear plans in why we're doing things, like with the Havertz signing, now with Raya. I think the other two are fairly safe signings, Rice and Timber. But I just think there's a lot to process in terms of what are we looking to do here. And I think the main thing for me, and I'm going to repeat it again, is can we keep our same principles of play for 60 games, no matter what happens to our squad? Is that's how we're looking to insulate our squad? Because we've seen for the last nearly every season under Mikel, that April-May period, can we get it over the line? That's the thing. And I think that's what this window is addressing a lot, because there's a lot of different, and the other thing I'll say is, like, there's different, of course, everyone has their opinions about how it can be used. Of course, when we signed Havertz, what did I say, Hussam? I said, why didn't we get Kudus and we could have got Caicedo? You know what I mean? Like, that's that kind of thing you're thinking. Everyone has their opinions, but the club obviously works on a personal level as well, on relationship level. These things work. For example, we don't know what Caicedo's talking about in 2-3 years. Is he going to want to force his way to Real Madrid like he's forced his way out to Brighton now? Obviously, Chelsea are obviously going to have that situation. I think they're doing very. I actually think Chelsea are actually doing very well in this Caicedo situation, because they're not buckling, and eventually they will find a price. But I just think that with Caicedo, as with a lot of these South Americans, Real Madrid is always the home signal. If they can get a move to Real Madrid, that's the focus. But
that's the dream.
That's the dream, exactly. But yeah, I just think that there's a lot to process in this move in terms of what it means for us going forward. If it's awkward for a season, and then we find out who's a number one, who's number two, or say it gets to a point where in a year's time we sell one of them, right? I do think that the levels that we'll have in that 1 year, this 1 year, will be top levels. Like they're not. We're not. Neither keeper, I would say, is below. I say, a top 7 in the league. Either of them. Is that stupid to say?
You don't think both of them are top 7? I
think both of them are top 7. I don't
fair.
think either of them drop below top 7.
Okay,
I think that's in the league. I think that's
I'm
pretty
trying
fair.
to think of all the keepers in the league at the minute.
Allison, Edison, Onana will be there. I would say
After Allison and Ederson, it's open season.
Yeah. Then I would say
No,
Onana, Ramsdale, then Raya, maybe
Nick
Lenu had a
Pope,
good
maybe.
season. Nick Pope, like these type of guys.
Listen, Onana goes to number 1 just for the way he yelled at Maguire yesterday. So
We'll get into
And
that because I
speaking
think
of yelling at Maguire,
Can I just quickly on the form fun thing on the Raya thing? I also think it's a smart in terms of the acquisition. It's also, I believe, he's homegrown and association trained.
correct.
So
Yes.
that's a couple more things that like you can tick off the box. And it's always good if your number 2 goalkeeper and your third choice goalkeeper are homegrown, just because it's like useful box ticking, especially for the Champions League and for
Well, there's
sort
all
of
sorts
Premier
of
League and
news
Arsenal.
today. There's
Sorry?
all sorts of news. I slept for an hour and a half, and Colwell's agreed a deal. Bloody Vlahovic.
Yeah, not talking
that's
about
that.
What's going on today?
Karen,
Yeah,
I told you
let's not
you slept for 6 months. There wasn't
There's,
enough.
there's
It was
a
a
lot.
coma.
It wouldn't surprise me if every single day, like this week, you heard something new coming out of Chelsea based on everything I know that's going on. But the thing is, our fan base is so impatient; they won't. They've been moaning on Windows. So there's no point like trying to get the true stories out there. So
Karen, you know what you remind me of? You remind me of myself at uni. The days that I skipped at uni had the most dramatic shit happen every single time. Karen slept for 2 hours, and in those 2 hours, 500 different things happened.
I'm
The
still
days I skipped at uni, like
yeah.
I was
Remember
waiting
those
one
days
day
at
for someone to
school?
tell me like Randy Orton came to university today. Like that's the only thing that was missing. I'm like,
Bro,
the
every
funny
time
thing
you
is,
missed
I
school, there was so many
fell
events
asleep.
going
I
on.
didn't realize I fell asleep, but I fell asleep with the Mbappe for Dembele, Gavi, and Rafinha news. I was like, hey, what's that? And then I woke up, and now Vlahovic to Chelsea, Colwell signing a new deal. Everything's going on. So yeah, interesting times.
forget Colwell. That's bad news for us.
was-
But anyway,
No, we can't right now. I mean,
we already addressed it in the Chelsea section. Karen, it's not my fault you were asleep. But anyway, we have to talk about Man United because I don't want to keep you guys for 5 hours on the video. Big up to all of you guys who are tuning in. We are going to be addressing Man United now next. We spoke about Chelsea, we spoke about Arsenal. So of course, speaking of awkward, speaking of unexpected, speaking of all of that, United 2, Dortmund 3 in preseason. Man like Staffy DM'd me that he's really upset about the game, and he's more upset about his fan base.
That's
Apparently.
the depression.
Yes, so he's annoyed about the fan base. Before I head to the United section, big up to Murad, big up to Twinny, shout out to you both for the super chats, big up to you guys. Everyone watching us right now, please do not forget to slap the like button, subscribe to This Is Football if you're not to do so. There's so much stuff happening. Please do like the video, please do subscribe, and we're actually going to be back at midnight to talk Liverpool Football Club. I'm going to go on one of them infamous rants, so stay tuned for that one.
Staffy
Staffy.
awake, so
Karen is definitely going to be watching that.
Talk to the people. United, Dortmund / your fan base / whatever you want to talk about.
It's not more of the result of the game, if I'm being honest. It's more of the how do I say this? I feel like the fan base just wants to be a little bit diluted, and now I see why a lot of rivals like to call us that, because there's things to be addressed, and let's be very fair. When we're giving it to Arsenal because they lost to us in New York, and of course, yeah, most of it is just to rattle them and just to banter. But when we're being objective and talking about Havertz and all that, I think it's only right when we have issues with our team and we're trying something new with our team and it's not working, then we just put some question marks on it. Then everyone's answer is it's just a preseason game. But that doesn't answer. That's such a lazy way to answer a footballing question, because I understand it's preseason, but preseason is like basically the practice to. It's like practicing for the exam. If you don't study and you go to the exam, you're not gonna just ignore the studies. You're like, you know what? I'll just wait to the day of the exam. You got to prepare, and that's how you start. Excuse me. That's how you start the league well. Arsenal did it last summer, and they started the league well.
By the way, Alex is revealing in the comment section Disasi's new chant. This is Disasi's chant at Stamford Bridge.
No, the funny thing for me is like I just feel bad because not on a bounce level, but like that might, because I've wanted Kobe Minor to break through for almost 2 years now. I've kept tabs on
He's
him.
injured for now.
Yeah, I know. This is why I'm sad. I mean, I'm just sad that Casemiro got jealous and took him out himself. But that was
He's literally the reason he got injured.
I just don't know with him. Look, we should talk about the Onana thing with Maguire because
No, we'll talk about everything, bro.
yeah,
We
I know,
can
but
go
I'm just
over
saying
everything.
I think that's hard. It was harsh on Maguire. Ericsson calls for the ball.
No, I don't think
He
so.
calls
No,
for the ball,
you
man.
blame Ericsson there. Did you not watch the clip?
I think it's a footballing situation that happens and a mistake happened. I don't think it's
Ericsson plays it into Maguire. Maguire gives it back to him, knowing
Yeah.
there's 3 people around him. And then, so Ericsson, the
Ericsson's
one thing he
calling for
could
the
do is take
ball.
one touch. No, he didn't. He gave
Yes,
it
he
to
did.
him. What? No, he didn't. What Maguire was supposed to do in that position, because you see 3 people on me, you take a touch as you turn and either go back to the center back or go
Yeah.
to the goalkeeper. That's what
Obviously.
recycling means. But
Of
he went back
course.
to him. And
He went
I
back
think
to it because he called for the ball. He literally put his hands below. He
Can,
was like,
can I just say, if Maguire had gone back to the keeper as well, you'd be lambasting him for being negative and going backwards. Like,
No,
this is
I
one of the
absolutely
things.
wouldn't. No, I absolutely wouldn't.
You,
Not in
you
that
maybe
situation.
not necessarily you, but your fan base in general. Like, one thing I will say, and this is like a general point, and I'm not saying you in your case you're doing this. I think it's a valid point, but the standards that Maguire gets held to is absurd compared to some of the, like, I've seen people, like someone said it in the comment section, Lindelof was as bad yesterday on what I've seen. He looked as shaky, he looked as
He made a lot
poor.
of mistakes. Yeah, he cost us a
Yeah,
couple goals.
I'm seeing no one's criticising Lindelof, but everyone's sticking the boot in for Maguire. Now, I see why Onana had a go at Maguire. Like, ultimately,
Onana wasn't in goal when these goals went in. That was the only one. He actually conceded 1 goal. The goals that Lindelof cost, he was on the
precisely.
bench.
I know that. Like, you know, people going on about Onana and saying also, like, Onana's a top goalkeeper. I'm not here to sit and have stupid agendas and, like, you know, people going on, oh, okay, he conceded, you know, a chip and a sort of bicycle kick. Fine. I really couldn't care less, you know, what kind of goals. The kind of goals teams concede in pre-season is sort of irrelevant in a way. But again,
No, actually, it's not irrelevant. It's not irrelevant.
The chip is
And
offside, though.
I'll tell you what. No, forget the Madrid game. The goals that we conceded in there yesterday is actually not irrelevant, and I'll tell you why. Because all of them, okay, except for 1, 2 of them came from build-up. And what Ten Hag is trying to do with this team is it force everyone and impose everyone in that back line and in that midfield to be able to build from the back. Now, Wan-Bissaka cost us 1 goal. And Lindelof, which I don't think it was just his fault. I blame the people positioned around him that they didn't make themselves an option for him. Maybe he would have went long and just saved himself the headache. But the build-up itself was not good enough. Yeah. And if you can't play the way the manager, and this was my issue last season when we all wanted De Gea out. I said, we'll get De Gea out, and then you guys are going to realize that we have a goalkeeper who is better with his feet than our outfield players. And when you watch us yesterday, Onana passes better than Casemiro. He passes better than Wan-Bissaka. And that's just 2 names in our defensive / midfield. Okay?
What I did mean, sorry, just a second, is I meant, like, the number of goals you concede in pre-season, in terms of the number of them, isn't really that relevant, because ultimately you can have a bad game in pre-season and I know
only conceded 5 in those 2 games. We actually didn't concede except 2 games.
Exactly that. I mean, but for example, Barcelona conceded 5 against Arsenal, but then topped Real Madrid 3-0. Like, you know, ultimately the number
that was a good game for me.
Yeah, the number
we
the number is
Madrid super team or Barca super team. That was a fun time. But
but this is the thing, is like ultimately in pre-season, like I don't think that's necessarily reflective. Like if you meet Barcelona in the Champions League, I don't think you're going to beat them 5-3 in the same way if you know Barcelona play Real Madrid, or if you know United play Dortmund. What I will say was really interesting about United versus Dortmund from just a pure neutral point of view is there seems to sort of be a bit of a malaise at the moment. I don't know if this is like, me just from the outside seeing it, is there seems to be some expectation that every single game, every single bit of defensive structure will be perfect. And like I've seen things that is poor defending, and I'll be honest, it's poor defending, but I've seen other things that is okay defending mixed with very, very good attacking, and players just getting slated for it because they're not people the fan base like. And this is the thing with Maguire. Like, I think Onana, it was perfectly acceptable to have a go at Maguire. Like, I've seen, again, those that remember Peter Schmeichel, like Schmeichel, even if he made his own error and conceded due to his error, he would have a go at the goal defenders because he's saying, why are you, doing that? But what I will say is, like, I think people just sticking the boot in Maguire, it's not going to help him because you're not going to drive him out the club. Like, you know, I know
think you're
the
making
fans.
too much of it though, because it was more of like not only giving the ball up, he actually didn't track back right away. If you look
No,
at
no,
it again, he put
but
it.
I
I
mean,
think
just
it
in
was either
general.
Scott or Lindelof. No, but even Onana came out and talked about it, and he was like, "Listen, like me and Maguire are very close. He's a top goal defender,
Yeah.
and I do that when I'm in goal because I expect everyone when I'm in goal to
Yeah,
perform
I
high."
think it's just something
So
to make
he
a passing
actually
comment and move on. It's not
yeah,
like
he played it down
Yeah.
so
It's
much.
not
He
a
did it.
talking point type thing.
But what
And,
I'm not
exactly.
necessarily
People
saying.
forget that we had Schmeichel doing that, and people used to
Yeah,
rate Schmeichel for that. So
when
but I
in the
think
Onana comes
90s,
in
I
and he does
think
that.
what I'm more saying is I think the important thing is, like, at times it does feel that there's one rule for Harry Maguire and one rule for everyone else in the defence, and that's what
also
I think. That's what I think from my perspective. And, like, you know, one of the most impressive things about Chelsea in pre-season has been when players have made mistakes, and there have been some of them. Besides Mark Cucurella, I think the fan base are just generally annoyed at the fact that, you know, is consistently made mistakes over the last couple of years. Generally, it's been an acceptance that it's pre-season. Whereas with United fans, they seem to be using pre-season as just a sort of attempt to try and drive Maguire out the club, and I don't necessarily think that's the
Well, how's
right
this
way.
become the Maguire show? Because like
no,
Maguire
I
wasn't
think
on
I
the
don't think
agenda
it
at
should be.
all.
I think honestly, the midfielders needs to be addressed as well
Yeah.
because
That's
if you look
actually the main topic that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk
exactly,
about the midfield. I
yeah.
didn't want to talk about
Go
the
for it,
Maguire
Staffy,
incident
because
too
you know
much.
we have to allow it. This is therapeutic for you. Talk
Yeah.
to the people.
It's
What
not
you
even that, bro.
feeling?
But
We need to deal with the depression, my brother. Come on.
it's
Yes.
not depression. But it's not depression. But we need to talk about what this midfield is about. Now, when I'm talking about the midfield, I'm talking about the starters. Unfortunately, Kobe Maino's not there. So since Kobe Maino got injured, and we played our 3 starting midfielders, so that's Casemiro, Bruno, and Mount. How many goals do you think we scored with them 3 on the pitch? Just give me a guess.
2.
0.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I know since Mount's been on, we've not scored many.
0. We haven't scored a single goal when them 3 are playing. Because when you look at the Arsenal game, we started Kobe Maino. We scored 2 goals in the first half. The second half, we switched everyone on. Casemiro came on, but then Mount and Bruno came off. So they didn't get to play together that game. And then the game after against Madrid, they started together. Kobe Maino got injured and got subbed off. We lost that game 2-0. Yesterday, we scored 2 goals with the what's it called, with the B team. But when our first team came on in the last 30 minutes, everyone said our team in the first half looked good. You know who was our midfield in the first half? Scott McTominay, Eriksson, and Donny van de Beek. We created more chances playing with this team. Now, yes, we did create chances in the second half. Mainly came down to Rashford, Bruno playing Rashford in. And you can argue that we could have had a goal or two if we had players finishing on the other side. But when you look at it, I don't think the midfield blends together well. Because I was trying to be objective about it. Now, I'm seeing the differences between Kobe Maino playing in our team and not playing in our team. Kobe Maino is a much better player on the ball in terms of progressing the ball and passing the ball than Casemiro. And when I look at it, I was like, why was he trying to play him last game, even though Casemiro was ready, which is the Madrid game? He wanted to have Casemiro in terms of destroying, but at the same time, he knows he can't get the best passing from Casemiro. So he tried to force Kobe Maino in that team by sacrificing one of his wingers. So he actually sacrificed Sancho, played Bruno on the right, but obviously we know what happened there. Maino got injured and the whole thing just went to hell. Okay? So when I look at it yesterday, why is this midfield struggling compared to last year? Because when I hear a lot of people's opinions that we added Mount to our midfield, so supposedly we improved, but I don't see the improvements on the pitch. So I'm like, okay, why are they not clicking yet? Now, to me, this is what I see, and this is the issue that we need to address. When we took out Eriksson out of that midfield, Eriksson held Casemiro's hand all of last season. When you watch how we played, it was always about 5 yards, 10 yards from him. He would actually drop deep into the defense, pick up the ball, and move up with it. Now, so that made Casemiro's job a little bit easier because he wasn't the only midfielder who was deep playing the ball up the pitch. Now, when you look at how our midfield is set up right now, Mount is playing very high, which, by the way, I don't think Mount has been doing bad. Mount is doing what he's been asked to do. What Mount is being asked to do is to play very high up the pitch, make runs behind the defenders, and he's been doing that well. He's actually linked up the play a few times as well whenever he gets the chance. But here's the issue. We all thought now that Eriksson is being removed, we're going to play Bruno deeper. Bruno's actually still playing in the final third of the pitch.
Mm.
So that means that Casemiro, whenever he gets the ball, he has to pick a pass for about 15 to 20 yards to pick out one of his midfielders. It's him and Lissandro, because Lissandro now is going into the midfield since Onana's playing a little bit high up now when we build up. But that leaves much more ball playing duty to Casemiro compared to last season. But that's not what Casemiro's strengths are. We're using him as a Rodri, but he's not a Rodri. He's a destroyer. So it's making this midfield look
Are you
worse than
saying
it
Mount
actually
playing
is.
the pivot? Is that what you're saying?
I think actually I have a few solutions. I don't have.
I can tell you for a fact, Mount can't play in a pivot. I've watched him
Mount-
try
Yeah,
and
that's
do it
what I
for
was
5
saying
years.
as well.
Mount can play in a pivot.
Even
There's
for
no,
England, he's not been very good. In
yeah,
the
there's no
pivot.
point of signing Mount to play him the way Eriksen used to play because it would make no
Can I
sense.
ask you a question? There's just one thing. Here's the thing. Last season, we shoehorned Mo Salah so Nunez could play in his favorite position. And we sucked. You never sacrifice one of your best players to make another guy look good.
Mm.
You always play your best players in their best position. Karen would be hella irritated if tomorrow they sign Osimhen and they play Saka left wing, for example. Make his game weaker for no reason whatsoever because he's a lot stronger on the right. I'm just giving it.
That
as an
doesn't make
example.
any sense. What? Osimhen
just-
right wing. What's
No, I'm just giving it as an
It's just
example.
a hypothetical. Just
Just
imagine
it's a
anyone
bad
else.
example, but just take it
doesn't
at face
make any sense.
Forget
So-
Osimhen. Just
So
Yeah, they
Dembele
could-
would have
they-
made more
they-
sense.
they-
You signed
signed
Anthony and he
Igal.
played him right wing.
They
Okay.
signed
Oh,
Igal
please,
to
no,
play
no,
right
come
wing.
on, man! Don't do this to me.
They signed
Okay,
Igal to play right wing. That's-
Okay, whoever you signed, whoever
Dembele.
You-
Say Dembele.
signed
Dembele
Dembele,
makes
please.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So point is, you can't shove Bruno to the wing so Mount can feel comfortable because
he's not
Bruno
shoved to the
is
wing,
significantly
actually.
Better. Bruno's
He's not.
significantly better than Mount. You can't
no.
make Bruno weaker
agree.
to make Mount stronger.
I agree, but he actually did. Yes, he did it in the Madrid game because in the Madrid game, I think he wanted to see if he can fit all four midfielders in the same in the same formation. But he got injured in the first minute, so we'll never know what would have happened if that actually worked out or not. The thing is, Bruno's actually playing his position right now. But what I'm saying is, it's leaving Casemiro much more exposed. And when I look at this midfield, Mount playing that high and Casemiro playing that deep alone doesn't work. One of them is going to get sacrificed because you either need someone to drop deeper and help help Casemiro, or you need to get rid of Casemiro. Imagine you had a Rodri in that team. If we had a Rodri, we wouldn't have this conversation because Rodri can actually pick passes. But that's the issue. That's not Casemiro's game. So when Casemiro is giving up the ball a lot and he's forced to make much more passes than he regularly does, his volume of passes is actually going up. If I would check a stat between the last two games or whenever his minutes that he played compared to last season, I'm pretty sure the volume of passes that he's had to take while he's played there
Relax,
alone.
Staffy. Trust the
See,
manager.
when people say relax, see what I'm saying? This is the issue. If I could be any more relaxed than this, I would be dead.
Yeah.
Because I would be breathing.
The one thing
I would probably be dead.
Right,
You know
the
what
one
I
thing
mean?
I'd say, right? You mentioned Rodri, right?
Yeah, dude.
Rodri, you mentioned Rodri. The thing is, why Rodri is so good is the spaces between him and his midfield are close, so he can pick passes, short passes around. The distance between Casemiro and Mount and Casemiro
lot.
and Bruno, it's too much. And you're then asking your centre backs to rotate out and carry into space. And then you're leaving space in behind, and then there's transitions occurring. And that's what happened with Maguire, for example. So this is another thing. When we were talking about Ten Hag ball last time, I was on the show, and the one thing he struggled with, and this is how the Spurs result happened, is in transition, that guy can get caught because he vacates his midfield a lot. So this is the main thing. He's going to have to find a way to keep the distances a bit smaller, maybe have his fullbacks come inside a bit more, try and get some more superiority in the middle.
He
to
actually
make
does
sure...
play Aaron Wan-Bissaka a lot higher in the pitch, which actually pisses me off.
Yeah, that was
Wan-Bissaka
annoying me.
is-
Like genuinely, I watched that back. I watched that back, and I watched the Fulham game back for Chelsea because I just wanted to see what you guys were up to. And
Did you
I'm
see the
telling you, the
mistake?
amount of space between Casemiro and the rest of that midfield, it was just annoying me. Just watching as like even from a neutral perspective, it didn't make any sense. Just seemed unnecessarily aggressive, and that's the thing. You have to control that aggression and really pull things going in. I just think you need someone there that isn't someone that isn't focused on getting the ball in, moving it quickly, and that's what Mount and Bruno will both do. You need someone that's just going to be able to slow it down and pick a pass.
That's what people don't want to understand, Karen, because people are taking the word transition too literal. I understand transition is more of quick football, but you're not going to play for 90 minutes at high pace. There's moments in the game where you need to put your foot on the ball until someone moves up, until you find an option. And actually, who did that very well yesterday was Donny van de Beek, but Donny van de Beek has no future in this team. He actually was the reason we scored 2 goals.
No, Donny van de Beek should really be playing in this team, honestly.
If you're being honest with yourself as a Man United fan, based on what you've seen yesterday, Donny van de Beek did the Mason Mount role better than Mason Mount. Because if you
honestly,
go back and look at the goals,
Casemiro, Van de Beek, and Bruno.
but that's never going to happen. I mean, to
it's
be
never
honest,
gonna
he is
happen, but,
injury
like,
prone, but it's never going to happen. You didn't sign Mount at the end of the day to play Donny. But when you look at the 2 goals, Karen, the first one was I think it bounced back from the defense after a corner or something. They were trying to clear it. He won it in their box. He kind of like shielded the ball well, found a pass to Alot. By the way, Alot, who actually can hit a ball and strike a ball, unlike
that shot was lovely, by the way.
It was a beautiful shot.
Yeah, lovely shot.
I always tell people Alot's not the best thing in the world, but compared to what we have, I would play Alot every time over Wan-Bissaka because I don't care about your slide tackling when I'm attacking. I actually need someone who can pass and shoot.
Man.
I mean, that's a different topic. We're not going to get to that.
Different topic, but it's just off the cuff, like genuinely.
No, I agree with you. Or Gusto. We would have had options.
Or someone.
But
I'm so glad we got Reece James and Malo Gusto. Oh,
yeah,
you guys are in heaven.
It's beautiful. It is beautiful.
But even on the second goal, since we're on Donny van de Beek, Hummels was trying to play the ball out from the back, and what I love about Donny, he read where the pass was going to go. So he didn't press the ball. He pressed the open option next to him. And he actually anticipated the ball going to that man. He won it. And then Anthony got a strike and he scored. So both goals actually came from Donny van de Beek pressing high and playing that defensive role high up the pitch, which is what he wants from Mount. So, like, people don't want to have these conversations. They don't want to have a conversation about him. They don't want to have a conversation about Sancho. Now people want to big up Sancho because he's been doing well in the false 9. But guess what? The minute Hojlund comes in, Sancho's back on the bench because he still needs to play a number 9. And then what option does that leave Sancho? Is Sancho going to go back to the wing? Ten Hag already said he doesn't want to play him on the wings. He wants to play him in central positions. He's not going to play where Hojlund is playing. So does that mean he plays next to Bruno? And these are the things that I want to ask, honestly, but the answer is just like it's just preseason. See, this is why I'm pissed.
If you're being honest, he should be like a Bruno backup. That should be his role as an advanced 8-10 sort of role behind the striker, essentially just to play combination with your winger, or play combination with your 9 and make runs in behind, or get the 9 behind. That would be cool. But the main thing I've taken away from this preseason is, like, I don't constantly want to make it about Arsenal. The only thing I will say is we have clear roles for our midfielders. If you, that's what I'm saying. So, for example,
I actually think we do too. The issue isn't the clear roles. Because I watched Ten Hag last season, closely more than you guys. Obviously, I'm the Man United fan. And the thing is, I understand Ten Hag. The one thing about him is that he actually doesn't mind sometimes changing something that he doesn't think is working. But
that's his strength. That's his main strength.
Yes, which I really like about him. So in any moment, I actually do predict that the starting 11.
Ten Hag more than me. I was always there to hate on United.
The point I was gonna.
Let me just finish my point though, because he kind of interrupted. The thing about Ten Hag, he could do that, but I've also seen him persist last season, the whole year with De Gea, knowing he can't do he can't do the role that he expects from him. And when he came in, he wasn't like, let me get a goalkeeper first thing in. He actually forced De Gea to play the way that he needs him to play, knowing he can't do it. Same thing with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He used them all of the second half of the season, knowing he actually can't do what he's expecting to do, but he forced him to do it. There's a lot of players that he wants to drill certain roles in them, but they can't. He's trying to put, like, what's the saying?
Square pegs into round holes.
Square pegs into round holes. That's what he tries to do sometimes.
Yeah.
And that worries me because I feel like if he stays stubborn and he tries to persist with, let's say, the thing of Casemiro playing way deeper than the rest of the midfielders with all that space and him not being a good passer, That might
20.
cost
I
us
like
an that might cost us a. It is, bro. I mean, the distance was too. I mean, you've seen it yourself. You said it pissed you off. When you look at it and you see about 15 yards between your
Yeah,
midfielders, it actually pisses me off. That shouldn't be acceptable. I don't want us to
No.
drop 6 points in the beginning of the season like we did last year to realize, okay, maybe we
Honestly,
need to try
that 6 points is what really kept you out of like a genuine title race at times because you were with
when you
us at
think of it,
some
yeah.
point.
Because we
So
finished 9 behind you guys.
the
So
point,
if we started the season well, we'd be 3
yeah,
behind.
yeah. The point I was trying to make, and this is what I was going to get onto, is with the roles we have in our squad, we have midfielders for each phase of the pitch. So Rice or Partey is very good in the first phase of the pitch, defensive transitions, starting off the plays, getting the ball out of the build, and then into the second phase where an Erdegaard will be. That's where he thrives, getting the ball from box to box, controlling the tempo of the game, controlling the pace, and then Havertz can also drop it a second, but he's more concerned with how things are happening in the third phase of the pitch, and that's what I was alluding to. We have spacing in our midfield. There's a very clear defined role for each of our midfielders in each third of the pitch. Whereas with United, I feel like it's 2 guys high up, 1 guy low down, and then there's the space in the middle. And that's what annoyed me a lot watching that Borussia Dortmund game, because genuinely it's not a hard fix. You just need someone to drop. If you have someone drop
100%.
and turn, you solve a lot of these problems.
Which
like
is why we
lot.
all actually predicted that, Curran. When we sat here,
Yeah.
Sam, you remember when we sat here and we were talking about the Mason Mount signing, we all kept asking, is Bruno now going to play deeper? And we had genuine arguments if he's good enough to play deep or not. And he actually isn't doing it. He's not being asked to play deep, which I find to be amazing because, like, as I'm saying.
And speaking of Mount, let me just ask you about him specifically before we wrap up, because I don't want to keep the guys waiting for too long as well. And we need the people to be able to enjoy the replay. So Mason Mount, what Awab's talking about right now is actually I just want to touch on him because he hasn't played well in 5 games. And what Awab is saying, he's average. Kovacic has shown better forward qualities and he plays deep. He's not better than Bruno, and Bruno's mid. He's referring to Mason Mount.
Bruno isn't mid. Bruno isn't like even as an Arsenal fan, Bruno is not mid. Like I'll say that right now.
I hear you.
Bruno has had, like, I would say under the Oli era, the end of the Oli era, he really tailed off. But under Ten Hag this past season, he had a really good season, apart from the pastings. So, but that's the same thing with the entire United team. So
big up the 7-0.
Big up the 7-0.
Just with the Mount thing, 5 games. What have you made of this Mount thing so far? Because Flawless, I kind of like earlier on was telling me like he's kind of been proven right about this Mount transfer.
Wait, don't tell me what Flawless said, but I'll predict what Flawless said and tell me if he said that or not. He probably told you that he's probably not playing bad. He's playing as expected. Because that would be my answer. I don't think.
No, he said like I told him what you said on Mount was correct, and he's like, yeah.
But is he saying he's being shit, or is he just saying like Mount is Mount? Because if I'm being very honest with you,
he's still saying he doesn't like the signing essentially.
Oh, I don't like the signing either. I understand what the manager's trying to do with it. I just don't agree with it.
Okay, so what have you made of him? Is the last 5 games that he's played so far? Because he hasn't been good at all. I'm gonna be honest with you.
He's done nothing that I didn't expect him not to do. So people who I asked a genuine question yesterday on Twitter. I was like, can someone tell me what has Mount added to the team since we signed him? And everyone is being defensive. They were like, oh, you're scapegoating him. You're scapegoating him. People are ignoring the question. I actually want to see what people might have seen that I haven't. The question was like, what have people seen? No one wants to answer me so far. The only answer I got was possession. Was
homegrown quota.
No, like I'm talking like generally on the pitch.
The only thing I will say
said
against us, right? Because that was probably his best game for you guys. Would you not agree with that?
I mean, that was the best game for most of our players.
For most, but I would say what he did do well was we vacated too many areas in front of our block. So basically, on the left-hand side, Havertz wasn't dropping enough, and something that we need to we addressed in the consequent games. But what was happening is he was able to find space to turn and find combine. He did very well at that. The main thing I have a concern with him is I just don't know where he fits. I don't know if he's a 10. I don't know if he's meant to be
his instructions so far have been no. So this is the thing. His instructions so far have been to press. So without the ball, he's been pressing. I'm not gonna lie, he is one of our better pressers in the team. Okay, he does actually win the ball in good positions. So he does press high up the pitch. He's doing what he's being asked, which is doing a lot of runs off the ball. He's not asked to do a lot of work on the ball, which is what Mason Mount is known for. If you thought you're gonna get Mason Mount and treat him like a Frankie De Jong and give him the ball up before the halfway line and ask him to move the ball up the pitch, then you shouldn't have just bought Mason Mount. So he so far is being asked, he's been doing what he's been asked to do. But it brings me back to my issue is that he doesn't have the right support cast around him. You can make as many runs as you want, you can play as high as you want, but when the ball is with Casemiro, unfortunately he's not going to find all these passes. Yesterday, he made a few runs into Rashford's channel, and I looked at it, and I'm like, that doesn't look right. Because by the time he realizes this ball is not for him, it's being played for Rashford, now he has to run to the box, but Rashford is already there and about to make a cross, and you're meant to be here to make these late runs into the box and help us score goals, but you're kind of a step or two late because you didn't understand that ball wasn't for you. So I think it's going to take time for him to understand, but I also think him and Casemiro playing with each other, unfortunately, is not going to do him a favor. Unless you put, I can't wait to get Amrabat because I haven't watched a lot of him, but a lot of people have said he is actually very decent on the ball. So I'm waiting to have that option. I have seen Mount look well when Kobe Mainoo plays on the pitch, and he's 18. So this shows me that there's something that can be done with this team. But what the Man United fans need to accept, because we can talk about it being preseason all you want, it's not going to make a difference when it's an actual game because tactics are tactics. There's going to be a point where we're going to have to sacrifice someone in that midfield because this midfield, on paper, it might look good, but it's not going to work.
It's just the balance isn't there. The balance
It's all about the distances. It's all about that. If you can,
and the balance, the balance.
Yeah, but that's where the balance comes from, though. If the distances are small enough, you can play passes with more accuracy.
I think the roles don't fit either. I don't think it's just. I think the roles are.
You can't have Casemiro hoofing at 30 yards or.
Actually, I had to go long a lot.
This is why I'm saying that's because that's what a lot of it annoyed me because I was just like, this is not Casemiro's role. He's not a build-up monster. He's not. Madrid used to literally play Kroos and Modric lower and have Casemiro ahead. That was how they built. So this is not who he is. And a lot of people going in on about how, oh, it's Casemiro's fault. Like Casemiro has been asked to do a job he doesn't know how to do. He's never been that guy.
That's why I said I'm worried because I've seen us last season force players into roles that they're trying to perform in and they can't.
I don't understand.
There's going to be a point where people will turn on Casemiro if this continues.
It's already happening.
Oh, but see, this is what I'm trying to address because people are not going to turn on Mount right away. I mean, if you already don't like Mount, then that's easy for you. You're going to say that we shouldn't have signed Mount. But there's people that are going to see that Casemiro is a main deficiency in our build-up, but it's not his fault because you've asked him to do something. It's like asking a fish to climb a tree. A fish can't climb a tree. It could swim, but it can't climb a tree. Why would I blame it for me giving it a role that it can't do? You know what I mean?
One thing I would say, though, and it's the same with us with Havertz, a lot of it is you have to. These guys are lacking in confidence, both Mount and Havertz coming into their respective clubs. And what you have to do, what we've done with Havertz quite well, is you have to make them feel like they're 10 feet tall. That they're someone that we have a role for you. You can do this. This is the specific plan we have for you. Just don't worry about anything else. We are simplifying your role. And this is how we're going to get you utilize the best out of you. And I feel like you're asking Mount to do a role that he hasn't done in years. Because if you look at how he's played at Chelsea, and Rob can attest to this, like
I think he could do decent, Karim. Because
he can do decent. But my thing is with us is this is it's a very tailor-made role for him. You know what I mean? That's a very
he's getting very qualified. By the way, he's not actually asked to do much. When you look at Mount's role on the pitch, is actually very simple. Yeah, and it demands more physicality than technicality. Sorry. Yeah, more physicality than technicality.
Yeah, it is simple, but the main thing is I feel like there's a lot. You're not. How can I put this? You're with us with Havertz. I feel like we're trying to make him more involved in everything we do. Like you've seen, if you watch how we played against Barcelona, he was dropping in the building in from left center midfield. He was dropping in and helping to build. He was pressing like a madman. We've simplified his, as you said, Mount simplified his role, but with Havertz, I feel like there's exact rotations available to him that get the best out of him because we're not putting too much pressure on him to think. Everything is sort of like, okay, I'm going to pass.
Yeah, everything is in place for him to come.
Everything is in place. It's very tactical. You get what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Whereas
listen, only time will tell with this United because I just don't.
And the same thing I'm going to say to you that I said about Havertz. Every time that he has a bad game, people are going to shout. If he has a good game, people are going to be silent. Okay, so let's just see how it goes.
The problem is people been shouting 5 games. He hasn't had a good game since. That's
brother.
One
of my main group chats is with a bunch of Chelsea fans. Those are my guys, and every game has gone past, and they've gone 0-0-2, 0-0-3, 0-0-4, 0-0-5. They've been counting.
0-0-5. Yeah, it's 0-0-5.
Everyone got their licks in with that All-Star challenge, and then I haven't heard anything since for Havertz, which has been kind of nice. So
I can't survive another 007.
Can I just say,
he has a 7 jersey too.
Look, we will see what happens because I am excited for the Premier League to start. But we're gonna wrap up here because it's an hour and a half into the show, so we want people to be able to enjoy the replay. We've also given you guys timestamps, so you don't have to, because I know you guys like to moan about something every single video. So timestamps are there. There is nothing for you to moan about. So you could go watch back the Arsenal section, go watch back the Chelsea section as well. Big up to 20, big up to Murad, big up to Awab for the super chat, big up to every single person that supported us across the month of July. It's August officially in Jordan right now, so the Premier League month is upon us. Make sure you're all slapping the likes, make sure you're subscribing, and remember to come back at midnight UK time because Hussam is going to go on an all-time Liverpool rant because I've got so much on my chest that I'm going to let out regarding this Liverpool Football Club situation currently in the market. Before we leave you guys, we're going to let you know where you can find the unbelievable people on this panel. Staffy, you shared your depressive thoughts in this therapy session. Where can people find you?
Why is it depressive, bro? I don't think it's depressing to talk about tactics. It's some people just don't want to have uncomfortable conversations. They want to believe everything is okay. Santa Claus is gonna come down our chimney tomorrow and gonna leave presents in front of our tree and everything's okay. That's not what the reality is. But anyways, you can find me on Staffy TV. I'm 0-2 so far with watch along, so maybe I should just stop doing watch alongs and the teams will be better again.
When's your next watch along?
When we play Lens in Old Trafford. I'm not gonna do the other one. We play Athletic.
It's called Lons. Long, yeah.
Is it Lons?
Yeah.
I'll say Racing Lons.
Yeah, right.
So sorry.
This is Lens. Yeah. This is Lens.
Yeah.
Pardon, monsieur.
There's no way I'm teaching an American how to speak English. This is
Lons is French,
yeah.
Which is why I said pardon, monsieur. Anyways, yeah, you can find me on Staffy TV. Hopefully our next watch along, we're gonna turn it around. It's gonna be 1-2. The comeback starts next game.
Big up to you, Staffy. Karan, where can people find you, my brother?
Apologies again for falling asleep. That's my bad. Hopefully it won't happen again. I mean,
listen, take another nap. Maybe
I'm going to sleep now. I'm going to sleep. I'm gonna watch the highlights, the Ashes. Thank you for reminding me, Rob. I'm gonna watch what's happened on day 5. Then you can find me at Ball of a Passion on YouTube. Video going up tomorrow about about some Arsenal stuff, which would be cool. I think current BOP on Twitter is the main thing. And guys, really appreciate all of you guys, and do hit the likes because Hussam does put a lot of effort in. And subscribe if you can because it's free and there's nothing holding you back. Just switch the notifications on, all the good stuff. So thank you again. Good to see everyone. Have a good evening. Big up,
Karan. Finally, Rob. I can't lie. When he said Shields at the start, I had no idea what he meant until someone referenced the Ashes. Then I remembered cricket immediately as soon as he said that. But I don't watch cricket.
Well done, Hassan.
So, Rob, where can people find you, my brother? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you can find me at RJP Journalism. At the moment, my account is on private because I'm just so sick of the window in general and all the nonsense. So you will need to request, but I am accepting most of them. It's just like the very blatant troll accounts aren't getting through. Obviously, if I see Hassam requesting again, I will be rejecting him, but everyone else is fine.
That's just so unnecessary, Rob. But that's the football wars in you talking. Anyway, make sure you go follow all the great people on the channel. Make sure you go watch back the clips that you couldn't watch earlier on. If you weren't here. Slap that like button, subscribe. See you back at midnight, inshallah. Peace out.